The Great Fire of London, which began on the night of September 2nd, 1666, and lasted for 4 days, remains one of the most devastating and transformative events in the city's history. It destroyed much of the City of London, but it also catalyzed significant changes in urban planning, building regulations, and fire safety, leaving a lasting legacy that shaped the modern city. London, before the fire. In the 17th century, London was a rapidly growing metropolis with a population of about 400,000. The city was densely packed, with narrow streets, overcrowded living conditions, and buildings constructed largely of timber, which were highly susceptible to fire. Thatched roofs, wooden houses, and the lack of organized firefighting efforts made the city vulnerable to frequent fires. The existing fire response was rudimentary, relying on volunteers using buckets of water and basic tools to try to contain blazes. The origins of the fire. The fire began around midnight on September 2nd, 1666, in a bakery on Pudding Lane, owned by Thomas Fariner. A spark from the oven likely ignited nearby flammable materials, and the fire spread rapidly. Fariner and his family escaped, but the flames grew uncontrollable. The combination of dry weather, strong winds, and tightly packed wooden buildings allowed the fire to spread quickly through the surrounding neighborhood. By the morning of September 3rd, the fire had spread to other parts of the city, and it was clear that it would not be easily contained. The spread and destruction. The fire raged for several days, fueled by strong winds and dry conditions. By September 4th, it had engulfed large sections of the city, including the commercial heart of London, such as Cheapside and Threadneedle Street. Iconic landmarks, including St. Paul's Cathedral, were completely destroyed. The fire destroyed approximately 87 churches, 13,000 houses, and numerous businesses, leaving around 70,000 people homeless. Despite this widespread devastation, the official death toll was surprisingly low, with only 6 recorded fatalities. Many people managed to flee the fire, though the material destruction was catastrophic. Efforts to contain the fire. At the time, London had no organized firefighting service. The only defense against the fire was a small volunteer brigade that was ill-equipped to handle such a large-scale disaster. Authorities attempted to create fire breaks by demolishing buildings, but the fire spread so quickly that the efforts were largely ineffective. The fire continued to rage until September 6th, when it finally began to subside. The aftermath and rebuilding. Once the fire was under control, the scale of the destruction was apparent. London's infrastructure, including commercial and residential areas, was decimated. However, the aftermath of the fire also provided an opportunity for the city to rebuild in a more organized and safer way. King Charles II issued a decree for the rebuilding of the city, with new regulations that required buildings to be made of brick or stone, rather than timber, to reduce the risk of future fires. The rebuilding process also led to significant changes in urban planning. New streets were laid out more widely to prevent the rapid spread of fire, and fire breaks were incorporated into the design. The famous architect Sir Christopher Wren played a central role in designing the new St. Paul's Cathedral and other important buildings, helping to establish fire-resistant building materials as the standard. Fire safety reforms. The Great Fire of London led to the creation of a more professional firefighting service, with organized brigades and better equipment to prevent future disasters. Building codes were revised to mandate fire-resistant materials, and regulations were introduced to improve the safety of both public and private buildings. These reforms were crucial in shaping the modern approach to fire safety. Legacy. Though the Great Fire caused immense destruction, it ultimately reshaped London for the better. It spurred improvements in fire safety, urban planning, and building design. The fire marked the beginning of a safer, more modern city, influencing fire prevention measures in cities around the world. Today, the fire's legacy can be seen in London's well-planned streets, fire-resistant buildings, and the continued importance placed on fire safety and urban resilience.